everyone, welcome back to Quarantine Kitchen. We are now 2 weeks into quarantine. It's been over 2 weeks since I was in a car. That's a thing. I'm doing okay though, I think. Been spending a lot of time practicing violin and obviously cooking. So today's recipe is tortillas, flour tortillas, which are amazing. I just want to know, obviously these aren't legit tortillas in any way. I don't want to offend anyone by stealing their recipe. These are flour tortillas just to replace the ones that you normally buy in the store. They're a lot cheaper. They're easy to make as long as you have flour. Hopefully you still have some flour. But this recipe doesn't use yeast. Yeah, you can make them as big as you're able to. I'll show you how that works, but you're just gonna need some clean surfaces, some flour, vegetable oil, and water and salt, and that's basically it. So yeah, I'll show you how it's done. I've made this recipe twice before, so I think I'm starting to get the hang of this one. Something that I find very valuable here is cleaning, getting your kitchen into a shape which is sanitary and easy to work with before you start, and then continuing to keep the place clean while you're cooking, also afterwards, obviously. So I know that can be a frustrating, tedious element for people. For me, you know, it just helps get me into the right mindset to be making food, confident that the food that I'm making is going to be safe to eat as well as delicious. And in a time where things are really overwhelming in a lot of ways, to have the easy problem of my dishes are dirty and the easy solution of I can just wash them, there's something really freeing and beautiful kind of about that. So
I'm doing okay though, I think.
If you can try and reframe that in your mind, if that helps, it is helpful, especially for a recipe like this where you're going to be using your surfaces, to just have everything clean before you get started. So here's our flour and salt. Just whisk that together a little bit with my spatula. This is the cup I'm using, by the way. Don't have a measuring cup, don't really need one. What's important, as in any kind of baking, what's important here are going to be your ratios. So as long as you've generally got the right ratio going, you should be basically fine. That is to say, you should effectively be using the same measuring cup for everything. So I usually do the dry ingredients first so that they don't get stuck to the cup quite as much. Just heating up a bit of water here for the water section. Some of these recipes say to use hot water. Some don't really specify, but you might as well warm it up a bit. So that should about do it with our sunflower oil here. Just gonna add enough water to fill up that cup. Basically, you want a sort of, they say a Play-Doh-like texture, basically a texture that you can work with, sticky, sort of clay-y, and yeah, I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. That will do. Find that spatula tends to be good for this. So I'm now using my hands to mix the batter. You can see this is actually really lovely to touch. It's warm because of the hot water. See how when I'm poking it that my finger indents are sort of just leaving an impression there? That is pretty much what you're looking for, and you don't want too many floating bits of flour here because that is just not really necessary. Take a look at this gorgeous dough here. It is so pliable. It's really just fun to touch. So what I'm doing now is just using my hands to make these little balls of dough. They're just gonna rest here for a little bit, although I haven't used any rising agents here. So it doesn't really matter that much how long they're sitting. But basically this is going to be the foundation for our tortilla. What we're gonna do later is kind of flatten it out and just fry it on a dry pan. So, you know, it doesn't really matter about the shape here. Consistency roughly is probably pretty good if you want your tortillas to be more or less the same size, which can come in handy if you're making quesadillas later, but it doesn't really matter if some of them are bigger than others. Sometimes it's nice to have a smaller one. Something that I notice is that when you're cooking, you probably want to immediately sample something once you have finished. In that case, having the little baby ones to just use as your sort of test or sacrifice is a good strategy. I'm gonna say these are pretty much ready. So we've got 15 here. Why not put them to bed? I'm gonna get the pan warming up. If you've got a grill, this would be probably a great time to use it. This is gonna be the other prep you need to do. Super easy. Just get a plate ready with a paper towel on it to put the tortillas on. So I put some flour on this pan here just to make things easier later, and you'll see that it will make the tortillas a bit less sticky. And my hands are nice and floured as well. Now they're going to tell you to use rolling pins here, but I don't have one, and also whenever I use one, it seems to kind of break the tortilla. What you want it to do is come out really thin, basically. So I'm just going to use my hands here to form a tortilla, which is the width that I want it to be. And ideally you want it to be kind of translucent, but this always creates a lot of holes in my experience. So that should do it. It's not huge, but that is fine. Just don't want it to come apart too much. That's great. Learning from our past experiences with this recipe. And you're just gonna let that sit on the stove for like a minute until it sort of starts bubbling. Use your spatula to flip it, and then after another minute or so, it's gonna be done. We'll move on to the next one. Obviously, in the meantime, what you can do is start flattening out your other ones. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself here, or else you're just gonna get bored. Notice that it's kind of getting bubbly here. That is definitely what we're looking for. So I feel like I've left my tortilla on one side for the proper amount of time, because look, it's starting to get a bit browned. Basically, this part of making tortillas is to taste. Obviously, if you want them less cooked, then that is totally your prerogative. And I did just turn the heat down here a bit because my flour is sort of burning a little, and we want to keep things just at like a constant and sustainable temperature. So I think this first one, it looks done to me. Move it over here, and we are gonna repeat this process 14 more times, so I will just cut. All right, so that is our whole stack of delicious fresh tortillas. I am salivating just looking at these, and by the way, having made them before twice, I can tell you with confidence that they are significantly more delicious than the ones that you can buy in the store, probably because they don't have preservatives in them, or maybe just because you have put in love and care while making them. Enjoy, happy eating, and stay safe out there. It is okay if there are little holes in some of your tortillas. It will not make them any less tasty, I promise. It's not dissimilar to making pancakes, except for I really lose my patience with pancakes, so don't expect that video coming from me anytime soon, because it is the one thing besides pie crust that I really don't know how to make. Something else I wanted to say about these though, normally I use a lot more flour on the countertop, but now that I'm doing it without a flouring basis here, it's still fine because of the oil in them. It's pretty easy to peel them off and just fry them. So the past few times I've made these, I have been guilty of eating them directly off of the stack just to A, keep myself entertained while I'm watching them cook, B, test them out, they are always very delicious. This time I'm trying really hard not to do that. Seems to be cooking a bit faster this time. Maybe because I'm not using quite as much flour, or because I've pre-floured the pan. That could also definitely be an element in that. So in this situation, I wouldn't be a stickler to timers. Listen to your kitchen, listen to your tortillas, and what they're saying to you.
I'm doing okay though, I think.
Just keep an eye basically on what you're cooking. Same thing goes for your ovens. Always check on what you're baking before the recipe tells you to, because you never know until you have a pretty good idea of how your own oven operates. They're all different. Again, as I think I've said before, recipes are always just a jumping off point. And something you can do with this one, which I haven't yet gotten to myself, is you can add spices and flavors. So much like how in the store you can buy spinach tortillas or chipotle tortillas and stuff like that. You can make those, but you know, we're still kind of in an old school phase about this, so I haven't done that just yet. But as always, recipes are just inspiration, just the ratios, and everything else is up to your own creativity, and that is part of what makes cooking so fun. Now, just kind of a disclaimer, I've never really made tortillas bigger than this. You're flipping and stuff, and lifting is going to be more difficult. I'm sure it would be with a bigger tortilla. Just something to keep in mind. These, in my opinion, are still plenty big enough for everything you would need from a tortilla. Maybe you just want 2 small burritos instead of 1 big one. Something else you all should know, these will keep in your fridge for at least a week. I don't think they've ever really lasted longer than that in my house. A batch of 15 like I just made, again, that was just 2 cups of flour. You can extrapolate. You can make 40 if you feel like having a big taco night with the several family members that you live with. Or you can half that and make like 7, and then you can just have a breakfast wrap every day for a week. If they will last just fine, just microwave them for like 10 or 20 seconds, or if you are making quesadillas or something, you're going to be heating them up anyway, so that's not going to be an issue. Just want to make sure that your tortilla is lying in the pan evenly as it's frying, rather than having bits folded over. Enjoy, happy eating, and stay safe out there.